you're interested in sponsoring us, just contact us through our non-existing social media platforms.
Yeah, I just looked up. I have a Pinterest account, so if I came in on Pinterest, if you want to sponsor us,
we'll only market this through Pinterest.
Yeah, we're a Pinterest exclusive podcast. That was not true. Welcome to Opinions That No One Asked For, or the NOAF. It feels good in my mouth. NOAF.
I love it. Personally, I like it a lot.
It's good. I am McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And how to describe the premise of our podcast?
We basically just wanted to have a platform. Well, we pretty much realized we talked about some cool, nerdy stuff. We feel like we say cool things, and so we're like, hey, let's make this.
Yeah, it's like I feel like I don't know a lot about anything, but I know like a little bit about like a bunch of things.
A jack of all trade of knowledge.
I could talk about breakfast cereal for a while, or like that's about the only thing I can think of actually. I should just think about cereal. We just ran out today. So,
what was it? What'd you eat?
Oh, today I polished off vanilla almond honey bunches of oats.
Ooh.
It was good.
That's nice. Great choice.
It was really nice. So we, in this inaugural episode, we wanted to talk about, I don't know how to say it out loud, 17776. It's like, I almost want to say 1776.
17776.
Ooh, that's nice.
That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it sounds like
17776.
Kissing through the phone. 17776, something. No, I don't. That's not came out. I was in 5th grade, so I can't say I'm really familiar with it.
Baby!
That's actually...
Shout out Soulja Boy.
Yeah, rest in peace, I think. Is he alive? I don't know.
He's still alive.
Yeah. So you finished 1776 like 10 minutes ago, so how would you describe the premise of this?
The premise?
What is it?
I don't even know.
It's like a story.
It's a story. And I think it's... it's almost like a book. I feel like it's like the future of books, almost. Like it's an interactive online book.
So like a movie. It's like almost multimedia, so it's like text and video and images, and that's basically
GIFs.
GIFs, that's kind of the gist.
I think it was such a unique experience and like a unique way to go about telling a story. I think it's like a very revolutionary way of like storytelling.
Sure. Yeah, so essentially it's a story set in the year 17776. I guess that's 17,776. Now that I'm actually thinking that's a real number. And it's from the perspective of a satellite that was launched in like current times. I don't remember which satellite it is. It's been a couple weeks since I read it.
Number 9.
Yeah, so like number 9, I guess, whatever.
If you want to was it like Sputnik? Was that like the Russian one?
I can't remember. Sputnik was mentioned, and I don't know if Sputnik wasn't one of the main characters. Anyways, it's from the perspective of a satellite, and in this future, mankind, apparently sometime around like the year 2020 something, mankind stopped aging and stopped dying and stopped having kids, so everyone's just frozen at the age that they were at, right?
Or they could choose their age, so they could... if they wanted to be in their 20s or like in their 80s, like they could choose what age they wanted to be at, and they could like switch as well. But like they were immortal,
right?
Basically,
yeah, and they can't like injure themselves either, right?
No.
And so with nothing to do, no one has to work, no one has to find food, no one has to really do anything that gives life purpose these days. They've taken to playing football. But weird football.
Not the football that we would assume. So the football, basically, they're just looking to entertain themselves. And the football, since it's the only thing that they use now, it's the only source of entertainment, they've, like, progressed football into these, like, crazy scenarios and situations, and they morph the game. It's kind of like little kids. This from like as I was reading it, I was like, okay, like a little kid has this game of basketball, and it's like, all right, we're gonna change the game up a little bit. We're gonna like walk on one leg, or like so these little variations have turned into these crazy, games of quote unquote football.
Yeah, it's like, for example, one of them is there's a game of football. Oh, I can't remember the specific examples. I should have reread it before we started recording. Like, one end zone is the state of Arizona, and the other end zone is the state, I think it was Washington or Canada.
Canada, yeah.
Canada, yeah. And so it's like these football games that are thousands of miles long, they're thousands of miles wide, and basically an unlimited amount of players involved, and they'll go on for months and years, and some of them go on for decades and hundreds of years. Tweaking the rules every time just to keep it interesting. Yeah, and like one of them, they give a list of like weirder examples of football games that they're playing. Is they decide to play a football game that's like 3,000 miles long, but the traditional football width, which is 53 1/3 yards wide.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to play within 53 yards, but run thousands of miles. I don't know. It's just like, it's an interesting example, and it's, I guess, what made it significant and not just, I don't know, like political sports comedy, I guess, is how it drew attention to what gives life meaning for me. I don't know. I kept thinking about, while reading it, like, why, like, what do I do to spend my time now? Why aren't I spending 100 years playing a single football game? Like, why would that ever be significant to me? And yeah, it was good, and it was like kind of a good mix of humor and comedy, and also
thought-provoking. It's like philosophical questions. Yeah, no, it was super. I mean, the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking of the song "Forever Young."
Okay. I was thinking of the prom scene from Napoleon Dynamite. That's all I could think of in that song.
But no, it was like so interesting to think about. One, the purpose of life, and two, just the idea of immortality. I think, like, as a kid, I was listening to that song. I was like, I don't know if I really do want to be forever young.
Yeah.
And like after reading it, I was like, wow, it's so. It was an interesting premise and way to think about immortality in terms of having to entertain yourselves and like having that be your now purpose for living. Sure. Almost.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me how it made me think of sports now, the way we use sports in our current culture, when we do have to work for food and money and supporting families and raising kids and things. Like, why do we devote so much money and time to sports when we do have those things that can be more fulfilling, I guess? I don't know. On that same note of living forever, when I was in 5th grade...
Are you sure about that?
I honestly have no idea. Yeah, 5th grade. Whoa, that was weird. Did you hear that noise?
Yeah, that was me. My bad.
It's fine. I was like, in 5th grade, we read Tuck Everlasting. Did you ever read that book?
Mm-mm.
It's basically a book about like a family in rural America that stumbles upon the fountain of youth in a random forest by their house. And like only this family has found it, and it's been 12 years since I read the book, so my memory is a little bit foggy, but they had been alive for a long time, and it's kind of like, what do they do to give their life purpose? And it's told from the role of this girl who meets them that wants to drink the water to then live with them, and they're trying to convince her not to. Now that I think about it, a lot of parallels to Twilight, unfortunately. That's really too bad. Luckily, this girl doesn't end up drinking the water. Bella...
Team Edward, by the way.
Team Edward? Gross.
Just kidding, I don't even know.
That's so gross.
Just like Robert Pattinson, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he was cool post-Twilight.
Post-Twilight.
Mid-Twilight, I was not a fan of his. He can keep that robe on.
I think, like, I didn't know anything about Twilight except for, like, the baseball scene.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
It's honestly probably the peak of the series.
Probably. But then, like, now that I've seen, like the Lighthouse and now Tenet, and, like, Robert Pattinson's, like, he's pretty cool.
I haven't seen this yet, but yeah, I hear a lot of good things about his current acting skills. Nothing notable back then, that's for sure.
Well, Cedric Diggory, Harry Potter.
Yeah, even then, I wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
Cedric Diggory was kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Movies.
Agreed.
But, I mean, pour one out for Cedric. Poor guy. Don't kill the spare. Anyways. what was I even talking about? Oh, yeah, Tuck Everlasting. So yeah, it's like interesting to think about. Like, why do we have these narratives of immortality? Why are they interesting, I guess, when we aren't going to be immortal, at least not in an unreligious sense. Like, we're not going to live on Earth forever the way these books depict, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was interesting reading that and thinking about, like, I guess when I finished, I just kept thinking, I need to use my time more productively, was kind of the takeaway from it, which I didn't really expect from it. And I'm not sure why, but just like thinking about someone that would spend hundreds of years playing a single football game because they know the purpose, and thinking about how I only have a certain amount of time, I can't waste time the way they do, made me reconsider, I guess, what I'm prioritizing with the time I have. I don't know, it's probably a little bit deeper than I tried to get with that. I think.
I don't know, I thought a lot about like the constraint of time that we have, and just how it's kind of, I think constraints are good, because they force us to think differently into, depending on the task and situation. Like in terms of design, we've talked about it before, but just how, having a constraint, an assignment, something to get done, to accomplish, that one that gives you purpose, but you also have, like a time constraint, like I need to get this done by such and such. And I think in the book you have forever to play these football games, or to like win a video game. I don't know, just like, I never really thought about time as a constraint, but it's something that we think about in our lives, like, I have like, I need to graduate by this time, or like before I die, what do I want to do in the next 5 years? Like, how much time is a constraint that we use, but how it's so much of a, it gives us purpose in our life to get things done.
Yeah, I just finished The Good Place this week. Have you watched The Good Place at all?
No, but I've seen like a little bit. I have friends that are really about it. We watched a couple
episodes together when we lived together back in the day. But yeah, I mean, serious spoiler alert here. I'm about to spoil the end of the whole series, so I'm sorry about it.
Dang.
Way good though. Highly recommend, even if you're about to hear what I'm about to say. But
are you sure you want to do this?
Yep. Essentially, in the last season, they get to the good place, which is heaven.
Okay.
And it kind of sucks because you can have whatever you want in this fictional heaven that the TV show's come up with. Anyways, and no one likes it because, like, after a certain amount of time in a place where you can have anything you want, nothing has meaning and nothing matters because you're not going to be there forever. And they run into, like, famous philosophers and rhetoricians, and they've all just become stupid and kind of babbling idiots because they haven't had to challenge their minds at all in thousands of years or whatever, because they've just been in this place where you can have anything you want, which to a lot of people is kind of their traditional understanding of what heaven is. And so what they end up concluding in kind of the resolution of the series, sorry if you're listening and you don't want to know, skip
this part.
Yeah, just don't listen to the podcast, I guess. Is they come up with this door that you can walk through whenever you're ready in heaven, and it basically just dissolves your essence into the universe, and that's the end, which is kind of the atheist concept of death.
Weird.
I thought it was interesting that in order for kind of this secular creation of a fictional perfect afterlife to have meaning, they basically just had to recreate death again, if that makes sense. Like, in order to give meaning to heaven, they had to add another death to it, which makes sense. Like, you need it. It's kind of what we're talking about. It can be hard to find meaning in every day if time is unlimited. It doesn't matter. Like, what's my motivation to do something now if I could do it in 100 years, or
or a new rebirth? Yeah,
and I think this is less reflective of, obviously, my beliefs in the afterlife and that sort of thing, but more just kind of thinking about life now. It's like, we spend so much time working for these things that we want. I want to make this amount of money and to build a family and to reach these creative goals and stuff. Like, why does it matter in the context of how much time we have to live it? I don't know. Also, another good example, that show of freaking hilarious show, but like hitting on like deeper stuff.
That's stuff. All right.
The little, I'm crab pinching as if that somehow expresses what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like deeper topics, I guess, in comedy.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I don't know, it's so weird. I don't know, just something I never really like have given much thought into how like almost blessed we are to have a limited lifespan.
Sure.
Just like how much like purpose that gives us into our lives.
Yeah.
Like as I was reading and thinking about the story and kind of thinking like what does it mean to be human as well. And so like it, at one point it's like a quote from the story. It says, if they advance too much further technology, those advances would inevitably intrude on their humanity. People wanted to walk. They wanted to take the bus that smelled like cigarettes. They wanted those precious 3 minutes between asking a question and knowing the answer. And I just thought, you know, and it goes further, like, you know, we are always trying to be more efficient with our time, but if you have unlimited time, there's no need to be efficient.
What's the point? Yeah.
And I don't know, so I need like bring up philosophical content.
Pictures that for some reason it means deep stuff.
You know, like questions, like thought-provoking thoughts. It's just like, you know, what is humanity? Like, what does it mean to be human? And it's interesting in that, you know, we look at humanity and like how we identify ourselves is by what we do, and what we do is usually motivated by our time constraints.
Yeah. Oh, I had something really good and I forgot it. Oh, yes. So yeah, the quote you were talking about, it's from a part in the story, which I don't know if we ever mentioned, but this is like a website.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
You just Google 17776, which is one more 7 than you would traditionally think should be there. It just takes you there. It's like the first result.
It's sbnation.com/a/17776.
I just Googled 17776 too.
You'll find it that way.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, that's what it is. It's a website that kind of leads you to this multimedia storytelling, whatever. But yeah, it's like these people, the satellite that's the main narrator of the story, he asks like, why, if these people have had 50,000 years to grow and to innovate, are they still driving normal cars and walking and talking on the phone? Like, why haven't they added technology? And that's what kind of where that quote comes in. It's like they wanted the satisfaction. It kind of reminds me of the pushback that there is right now to self-driving cars. It's like people want the satisfaction of driving a car, and I agree. I don't know that I fall so firmly on the side of anti-self-driving cars, but I do think there's like a lot of joy and satisfaction to come from driving. And while I do look forward to the day when I won't have to like stop and pay $50 every 4 hours of driving and to refill my car, and hopefully that's a day that comes relatively soon, and I don't have to pay $112,000 for a Hummer EV to do it. But yeah, it's kind of like people want that satisfaction, but it's also kind of in continual conflict with our impatience, and we want things to be faster and better.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, you know, they might be like considered annoyances a little bit, but I think that we want to care for people. We want to like fix things. And I think having those little problems, if you will, kind of give us motivation, like slightly more purpose into our everyday life. And I think that's being kind of attacked in a sense with, you know, self-driving cars. But in one of my classes, a professor said that, you know, Google basically, like, with automation and everything, it's like making our lives easier and easier to where we don't have to think about stuff.
Sure.
Like, I can get on my phone and like a lot of things will just be like, I can click on something and be, oh, go here, like it like the shortcuts, you know. And it's just like crazy how it's happening. Things are just happening to us and we're advancing so much, but there's, you know, having that, you know, like quality, I don't really know how to describe it, just like something that I do intentionally is more fulfilling than having something done for me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is what gives us fulfillment. Right? And I think that for me, and maybe in a more general sense, it's human to human interactions and, kindness and service, but also, teaching someone something or learning anything or creating something. And automation, well, I think there's a lot of benefits to it, and I don't say this in any way to mean that we should fight against technological advancements in automation. It does tend to deprive people of that, Without actual driving, there's no fulfillment in driving. So then the question is asked, like, what do you do with that time you spend in the car? Mm-hmm. Do we become Wall-E people, that are just continually consuming media and never creating and never getting the long-term fulfillment that comes from creation, and only the short-term dopamine hit fulfillment of watching a funny YouTube video or that sort of thing? And it's like, I think of like raising a family. I don't have kids, obviously, but I'm sure that from what I understand, there's immense fulfillment that comes from raising kids. But then one could say, if that was somehow an automated process, if they technologically devised a perfect way to raise children to be good people and had it done automatically, what would human beings then do with that independence? And that's kind of like the extreme example of pushing off human interaction onto automation, but it just kind of poses the question, like, what do we do with all this time that we're being afforded? Are we happier than people 200 years ago who had to do all the things that right now I can do with my phone?
Totally.
Which I don't think we are. I think the sources of fulfillment haven't changed. We're just mankind as a whole has just always struggled to find them, I guess, to focus on the things that really matter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like in one of my classes, we've gone over some studies about productivity and just how things are becoming more automated, and with computers we're able to do more in like a shorter amount of time, but we're also being less productive because we're more distracted and less able to focus. And so there's like a super interesting almost paradox between all of it.
Yeah.
But we want more free time to focus on those connections, but I think having those, everyday things that we need to do also make those moments sweeter and more important as well. So like there has to be like a balance between both. Yeah.
We're setting a very dangerous precedent on this podcast. So the very first thing we decided to talk about, we've hit the meaning of life, we've hit the purpose of human fulfillment and time and the concept of time and death. And I don't know if we're always going to be this deep on the podcast, but
all in just one episode of OTNOAF.
on the NOAF.
But I mean, you can read 17776. I'm gonna stick with that now. But you can read that, and you can read it from a purely entertaining perspective. But I do think it provokes these thoughts and these questions that are very interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's kind of a hallmark.
Applicable.
Yeah, it's a hallmark of good media entertainment. I guess maybe that's why I love The Good Place so much, is that it's really funny and I enjoy it a lot, but it also touches on kind of those deep underlying tenets of human existence, that sort of thing. Like, I love The Office, but The Office is something I put on and let it play while I'm doing something else because it's really funny, but I don't do that to a show like The Good Place or shows like that I don't know, they beg a little bit more of you as a consumer
to like think about.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm sitting there philosophizing for like an hour afterwards, but I think there's a more complex emotional depth that it can bring. Yeah. Which in The Office there's that too, but it's different. It's more.
You've also seen it like 5, 6.
The Office, yeah. I'm about to finish it again because I'm taking it off of Netflix. I'm going to be very bitter. We should talk about
Netflix. Don't do that.
I know. We should talk about because you're obviously listening. You and my mom, and I think that's it. But yeah, and I think The Office offers kind of that deeper meaning in human interactions. Like The Office has made me cry before watching Michael leave. But not the other 90% of the time. That
was so well done.
It's good.
When Pam takes off the mic and then
it's
that
good.
part, like, whoa.
It's good storytelling. Yeah. Another thing kind of we talked about hitting on is the future of sports. What is sports going to look like in the future? In 50 years or 80 years or 100 years? So I don't know, what do you think? Like, obviously we're not going to live for 50,000 more years. Not individually, humankind maybe, but not individual humans. I don't know, based on what's going on in climate right now and politics, we might be toast in like 8 to 12 years. That's hard to say. But I don't know, what do you think?
The future of sports.
Yeah, sports in general. Do you think we're going to be playing international singular games of football?
It'd be pretty sweet, honestly.
I mean, it would be cool.
I mean, the world is getting flat, as they say, but
it's not always flat.
I don't know. I think sports are kind of. I think we will see a lot of change in sports. I mean, we're already seeing more sports emerging. I mean, just with the pandemic, like the Ocho became like more of a thing. The Ocho, like.
Ocho Cinco? May he rest in peace as well. He's probably dead, right? I don't know.
But the Ocho, it's like these wild, weird sports. Like,
what is Ocho?
Oh, the diving. It's like these like random sports that people do. I don't know all of them like specifically, but one of them's like this diving competition where they jump off and like.
Is this like Point Break, like the extreme sports competitions? One of them's like surfing the Mavericks, and the other one's like.
It's like ridiculous sports.
Okay.
So like almost kind of stupid. So I mean, like there's like man, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like diving where they jump off and you have to like try to do like either like style points, like funny, and it's like you dive like
or water diving.
You like dive like a jackknife almost.
Like into water.
Into water, yeah. And there's like, I mean, there's like sports like arm wrestling now and
right or slapping. Have you seen those videos?
Yes,
those are wild.
Those are insane.
They're like, oh, that's so stupid, but then it's kind of like, I kind of want to try it.
And so I think we will see more sports. I think like this kind of gives. This is like so creative how he did it, and it's like that'd be kind of sick if it actually did happen.
Yeah.
But and I think we will see more the emergence of new sports. But I'm also concerned about the sports that we do have, and like the youth being brought up right now.
The young,
because like sports is. I don't know if it's being attacked, but like less and less kids are playing sports.
Like organized sports.
Organized sports.
Stuff,
and just even like unorganized, like kids are in their homes now more than they used to be. And so like I am curious to see our current sports and how it will transform with like technology advancing and VR and pandemics.
Well, I guess for me, sports is just a large facet of capitalism. To get into my socio-eco-political soapbox here, but like sports is driven by money, obviously, professional sports particularly. And I think a large portion of like I don't know, I played football and basketball and soccer growing up, and even as a kid in 5th grade playing basketball, as soon as I could make like 3 3-pointers in a row, I was like, okay, like I could go pro, That's kind of always there. That's such a driving factor in sports. For any kid, I don't know, I can't speak for internationally, obviously, but in the United States, it's always there on the horizon through all of it, In high school sports, a lot of the reason that like helps, at least me when I was playing football, you pick yourself back up on the hard days sometimes because you think there's a chance that this could take me somewhere else,
Totally.
So I think like with new sports coming, like I maybe I'm not super familiar with all new sports, but one that comes off the top of my head is spike ball. Has picked up big in like the last 7 years, I guess.
Totally.
More or less. Maybe it's a little older than that. I don't know.
7 years is about right.
Yeah. It's got a huge following, and there's professionals and that sort of thing. There will always be something to step in and fill a vacuum if something leaves the top, I guess. So like football and basketball and baseball are kind of the preeminent professional sports in the United States. Yeah. But like you mentioned, the numbers for youth playing those sports are going down with each passing year, which I'm not sure if that's reflected in like viewership and fanship of professional sports teams, but I just know that vacuum will be filled by something, because that's how capitalism works, right? It's something steps up to fill that economic opportunity. right now you got Spike Ball and the Ocho, whatever the freak that is. I don't understand. Someone dives into a thing like a thing. Anyways,
video game competitions now.
Yeah, esports. Yeah,
huge.
Totally.
Esports.
Yeah, I was just watching some videos this morning of just these. There's so many 16-year-olds that are making six figures playing video games. You know, and it's exactly that. It's just people starting to play vacuum. So I guess what I'm saying is, sports will do as well as the capitalistic society that it resides in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
At least in the United States. It's different. Like when I think of Brazil, a place that I am personally familiar with, they
McKay used to live there.
Yeah.
For a time.
They definitely have, I mean, I'm not super familiar with their political situation, but they don't have as flourishing of an independent economy as we do. Their government participates very differently than ours does. But so soccer is obviously the biggest sport down there, and it plays a very different role for them than it does for us. Again, those kids also have the dream of playing professional, but it also plays a role in, you know, taking your mind off of poverty and giving kids a way out of, you know, it's similar, but it's different in other countries. And so I think right now we are, what's the date? We're 5 days away from a presidential election. Mm-hmm. I've had people send me messages saying that the entirety of American democracy hinges on the direction in which this vote goes. And I don't know that I would go that far. I do think that there's a lot at stake in this election. But I guess sports will kind of follow suit with kind of the nature of a free, quote-unquote free country, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of a rant. I don't know if that even made any sense, to be honest.
No, you're good.
Wasn't back to
all things that have been provoked by 1-777-6.
Yeah, true. We're still on this topic. It's good. Look it up. It's produced by SB Nation, I think. They've been making a sequel. I don't know if they finished it or not, but we're in the middle of releasing it last time I checked. It's called 220. It's like 2020, but with an extra zero there in the middle. 20020.
I'm looking it up right now. So according to the Wikipedia page, on September 30th, 2020, a sequel titled 20,020 was launched on Secret Base.
By the way, sorry.
It's a branch of SB Nation. On October 13th, 2020, it was revealed to be the first part of a two-part continuation with the second half, 20,021.
Good.
Planned for release in the winter or spring of 2021.
Oh, sick. I'm also realizing that there's a very low chance that this podcast will be released to anyone publicly in the next few days. So, person in the future who's existing in a post-election apocalypse, listen to this and harken back to the years in which we lived in a free economy and sports existed and we could record podcasts without the government censoring us and stuff. JK, I don't know what's going to happen.
We'll try to keep politics out of this.
Yeah, we'll stay positive. I wasn't saying that about anyone in particular. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Very poorly the next couple months.
We have no idea what will happen, but we will continue to make just fantastic content for you guys, for all our little no-fers out there.
To listen to in your post-nuclear war bunker. Keep you guys entertained while you wait for the inevitable heat death of the universe. Well, yeah.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Opinions That No One Asked For, or as it's affectionately known, OTNOAF. OTNOAF is hosted by me, McKay Menden, and Jordan Siderud. It is edited by me, McKay Menden. Original music for this episode was by Tyson Siderud, and you can find more episodes of the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. See you next week.